Today we have a very different car, a 2018 Porsche GT3 with only 2,000 miles. This GT3 is really kind of like a super sport motorcycle. On paper, this GT3 does not look very good. 500 horsepower and 380 pounds of torque. Its price tag is $145,000. That's quite a lot of money. You can get a lot of cars for this price. So why get a Porsche GT3? You pretty much go into this cult of Porsche owners. They seem to be like a brand of their own. No matter how hard you push this car, it always has something more to give. One thing I like about Porsche is its consistent styling throughout the years. Even the modern ones really relate to the older ones. And this modern one from 2018 doesn't look too different from an older one. Sure, it's got its refinements in carbon fiber and HID headlights and LED headlights and all of that stuff. But really, the look is about the same. This one is equipped with a PDK transmission, which is virtually an automatic transmission that's much faster than a manual transmission. This car is pretty much adorned with all of these carbon fiber bits everywhere, including the dash. The seats are really stiff and they're made out of carbon fiber, so you can save a bunch of weight just by getting these seats. Everything is really well done. Even the belt that matches the car. To buy a Porsche for $150,000 makes quite a statement, but it doesn't make the statement outwardly to a lot of people because not a lot of people looking at the outside of this car would realize that this car is extremely good and extremely fast. Most people would just consider it, oh, it's just a Porsche. You see Porsches everywhere. They're almost commonplace. Porsches are, of course, pretty common. And I think if somebody wants a Porsche that bad, you can get it because, especially in the used market, you can get a Porsche 911, for example, for 20, 30,000 and in pretty good condition. But a Porsche GT3, any GT car is going to cost you a whole lot more money. When you look at the other supercars, for example, a Ferrari or Lamborghini, those are much more expensive. Even in the used market, they're much more expensive and much harder to get. If you look on Craigslist, for example, you'll find probably like a dozen Porsches for sale and maybe one Ferrari. Porsche guys are very different than Ferrari guys. I think you almost have to be a little bit more refined to have a Porsche because it doesn't ask for that much attention. A Ferrari, it's basically one of those cars like, look at me, look at me. But a Porsche, it's a little bit more subdued. Like you have to be a little bit more into the heritage of the car to fully understand the Porsche. Something I don't quite understand yet. The basic layout of the car is actually fairly simple. There's not a lot of buttons anywhere. Like it's very simple to use. It's got the shift pedals in the back of the steering wheel, and the Tiptronic dual clutch PDK thing works really well on this car. I'm not quite sure how many people would actually smoke in this car, especially when it costs $150,000. I don't think I'd be smoking in it at all. It's way too pretty to mess up. Great engineering by Porsche. This is kind of like something I've never seen in any car except Porsche. They have cup holders hidden here, and it's covered with a carbon fiber dash, so you can't really see it. It's Porsche really built, even these supercars have little notches on top roof for installing a roof rack so you can carry bicycles or whatever on top of the roof. Only in Porsches that you actually get this comfortable sort of styling to it, and cup holders in a super sport car. Now you notice there's no back seats at all in the
This was
GT3.
my first
time. This was my first time in a Porsche GT3, so I wasn't sure what to think of it. It drives pretty well. The ride is pretty stiff, very harsh. I have known Porsches for being great everyday cars. They can handle it, and you can rack up a lot of miles. They are expensive to maintain, but that's relative to other cars, for example. Driving in this GT3 is pretty amazing. The carbon fiber seats have you sit down so low. You're so low to the platform of the car. So you feel really a lot of like car input in these seats. Did I tell you that my personal car is a Toyota Paseo? That's got a Toyota Tercel engine. And then I stepped off of that and I went into this car. It's quite an amazing difference. This is just so refined. If I had this car to drive around, I definitely would not have a license. I don't think I could control myself to drive it fast. I think this car is the type of car that just begs to be driven fast. You cannot drive it slow. I wasn't lucky enough to drive the car, but I was a passenger. I got to feel how the car like moved around a little bit. So it's a different experience being in a passenger seat than in the driver's seat. But maybe one day I will get to test drive one of these. But this was an amazing experience. The acceleration on this car, as you're about to see, like it just pushes you back right into the seat. You feel the G-forces. You feel like your brain getting pushed into the back of your skull. That's how brutal the acceleration is.
You hear how fast it shifts? It was a